Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. An absolute bloodbath in markets on Friday, a global meltdown as Trump continues to push the tariff narrative with China. We're going to be talking about the aftermath of that, how it's impacted the market, Bitcoin, and ultimately the Bitcoin miners. A lot to discuss in today's video. Before we get into it, take a second, smash the like button, guys. Big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below how you made out on Friday, if the account held up, and what your plans are this week moving forward. With that being said, let's get into today's video. All right, guys, Monday morning here, an eventful week, or at least Friday end to the week. We've got some news to talk about. We've got some market response. Obviously, Bitcoin, the equities market, Bitcoin miners, absolutely a bloodbath on Friday. We're going to be talking about the aftermath and where we think these miners are headed next. Before we get into it, your time in Dubai is wrapping up there, Anthony. You're at the airport. You're headed off to Kazakhstan. I hope you brought yourself a toucan hat because the weather looks a little different there.
Yeah, I've ended my 5-day first part of the journey in Dubai. It's been averaging 35 degrees every day, and I arrive in Astana in probably about 7 hours' time, and it's going to be -5 there. So different weather regimes. I'm in Astana or in Kazakhstan for the next sort of eight to 9 days, and back in Dubai on the 23rd for the last couple of days before heading back to UK. So if you're in those areas, give me a shout out. I've already met up with some subscribers and started to make friends, so we'll keep in touch with those again. And yeah, just reach out and let me know if you're in Dubai on 23rd, 24th. I'm certainly around those 2 days.
There you go. Meet up with Anthony Power, the OG in the Bitcoin mining space. Yeah, it snowed here over the weekend, unfortunately, as well in Calgary, Alberta. Happy Thanksgiving to any Canadian viewers tuning in today. Hopefully you guys had a great long weekend. Let's get right into it. Friday afternoon, the week was looking great. We had talked all week about how green things were, a lot of optimism in the space. Share prices were hitting all-time high. And then our good old friend Trump came in with a tweet. We'll get into that in a second, but you can see based on the press releases, the headlines here, this was not just a regular pullback. In excess of $19 billion worth of crypto-related investments were wiped off, in excess of $2 trillion worth of equities. This was a major knee-jerk response in the markets, and glad to see today we're starting to make some recovery.
Yeah, I mean, Friday, as we explained on the last podcast, I mean, pre-market, things were running up, and I put some ambitious sell trades in, and they all activated, so that the market was still going up after market opened. And then within an hour of market opened, that Twitter post came out, and yeah, the market's just tanked. And I think Bitcoin price got down to probably 104, 105,000. That was a big drop from 122,000. We've talked before, it took 9 years for the Bitcoin price to get to 15,000. It took about 5 minutes to drop 15,000 on Friday. Happened really quickly, and there was just it was just relentless. And then obviously the impact then was the mining stocks. They made so big gains early in the day. All the miners were green, and then they all pulled back, and we had a sort of like a Friday and a Saturday where Bitcoin was trying to find itself. But we've seen some positive news in the last sort of 12, 15 hours. We've seen the Bitcoin price start to move in the right direction. It was up over 115,000 today, so managed to eat some of that losses back there, and currently about 114,500. So we're starting to see some recovery. Whether this is a false recovery, we'll need to ask the technical guys on that. They're the ones that look at the charts and tell us. But 19 billion in losses in trades, that's a big number, Bryce.
It certainly is. Yeah, a little bit north of where my portfolio is sitting. We heard this could be a bear trap. We heard this could be a bull trap. Time will tell. It is looking quite positive this morning. You mentioned one comment there, though, the speed of this crash, and that was really what was unique. We've seen Bitcoin pull back 5%, 10%, 10 grand, 15 grand over a day, over a week, over a month. We've never quite seen this amount of volatility in minutes. And that's what caused so many people to get liquidated. If you had a leveraged position, a lot of times you're not going to set that downside protection very close in the short time frame, right? Obviously, we don't expect Bitcoin to move. That's exactly what happened here. People were eventually liquidated out of these positions. I saw a lot of people that actually had stop losses similar to you, Anthony, but the market was moving so quickly, they just weren't filled. I also heard that there was some issues with selling on various different exchanges. So really the perfect storm, as we said on Monday of last week, but going the other direction. Now, the tweet itself, we've got a sample here for you. This was the initial tweet that came out on Friday from Donald Trump, essentially in response to China. So they're putting in some limitations on the exportation of rare earth elements, or REE minerals. Trump took this as a potential ban on export and retaliated with this proposed 100% additional tariff as of November 1st. Now, we've got a little bit more context as to the understanding or perhaps misunderstanding that took place here. There was about 26 hours between the initial China announcement on rare earth limitations on bans and when Trump put this out. So there was a little bit of a reaction time, but the markets, as we've seen with tariff news in the past, really ran for the hills.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen the president, pretty much orchestrate markets, since he's been in the office there, especially when the word tariffs mentioned. Remember the tariffs to Mexico, tariffs to Canada, tariffs to China, Russia. The market reacted straight away. Bitcoin price reacted straight away, and then within a few days, the velocity of the tweets had calmed down, and we're now going to give some time frames to see if we can discuss and negotiate, and the markets then start the recovery. So I think we even said on Friday's podcast, this could be a few days, and then we find out actually it's not as bad as it seems, and we've been proven probably right to in that at the moment with the information that's coming to light now. But it's the reaction sometimes that's been taken from the Oval Office before maybe having looked at all the facts. Maybe take that extra time to read into everything before you make it, because there was, as well as, like you say, 19 billion wiped off crypto, and there's probably 40 to 50 million people in the US alone that have crypto. They would have been impacted by this. But the S&P was down, $2.5 trillion, and that's pension funds, people's savings, and so there is significant impact when statements are made that probably don't have all the due diligence applied to it, but maybe time taken to understand the full impact before anything said in future would be a good policy to make.
I think you're right there. It is pretty scary when global politics are run off tweets and Twitter posts. But we have seen this modus operandi many times with Trump. He comes out of the gate strong. The acronym TACOs come up. Trump always chickens out. We'll see if that's accurate or not, but it does seem he has backstepped a little bit. Now, you talk about some of the liquidation, the impact to people. Obviously, the pension funds, yes, a lot of money there. We had people in the crypto space, especially the leverage traders, in some cases completely wiped out. So if you look down the list here, these are not necessarily unknown coins. You look at Atom, Sui, Cardano, Link. There was some big intraday losses, and we just looked at the chart here, but you can see essentially that one wick down 5, 10, 15 minutes, but that's really all it takes for those stop losses to get hit, people to take your shares or your coins, and you're out of the game, so to speak. So obviously, condolences for anyone who was caught in that position. We did want to define the term liquidation before we move on here, Anthony. So for a lot of people out there, this would feel like a real loss, but essentially the way they're calculating this liquidation is if you had $100 invested in a token, you ran that up to $2,000, the liquidation total on that account would be $2,000 if you're wiped out. So in reality, the amount of initial capital lost was likely quite a bit less. However, as you and I know, when you see those gains in your account, you start to essentially count the chickens before they hatch.
Yeah, I mean, you look at your portfolios now. If you've got some mining stocks out there, and if you saw those crash down to zero, you'd be a little bit disappointed. Just remember, This happened to companies like Argo back in 2021, 2022, when the share price, was the value of the company was worth $1 billion, and the value of the company today is worth probably, I don't know, 20 to 30 million dollars. So, people who invested a lot of money in those companies saw them rise, but then see them lose all that money. I mean, I understand what they're saying. You're only losing your capital element, but when you're making profits like that, there's an expectation you might be able to actually cash in some of those profits. And obviously, it's caught people, on the wrong side of the on the fence. And like you say, it's impacted many. In fact, CoinGlass noted that being the largest liquidation event in history, impacted more than 1.6 million traders. And it added that more than 7 billion of those positions were sold in less than 1 hour of trading on Friday. So that just gives you, an understanding of what happened. It was so quick. And like you say, I don't think we've seen a drop in the Bitcoin price so big as we did on Friday.
Yeah, at least not in such short order. You and I both stand behind the statement. Do not trade on leverage, you guys. This kind of stuff can happen. It is rare, but it's heartbreaking when it does. So only invest money you can lose. I personally will never touch leverage, and this is a great example of why. Now, you mentioned earlier Donald Trump has had a bit of a change of course. He came out with another tweet now on the 12th of October, so over the weekend, saying, don't worry about the China situation. He respects the president. This is a bad moment. They want to make something work here between the two. Then we found an article that came out on Twitter talking about the fact that this may have been a bit of a misunderstanding. So you can see here they cite the time difference between these tweets. Sounds like Trump or the administration may have mistook this for an export ban as opposed to export controls. And as a response, again, de-escalating the situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned Bitcoin price back up in the $114,000 range. The interesting thing with Bitcoin and the miners, most of the AI HPC chips are coming out of other areas in Asia, so not necessarily China. Bitcoin, we know, is a decentralized global currency, no tariff impact there. So although we saw a sell-off in Bitcoin initially and the miners, again, as you say, when people take a little bit of time to digest, understand the situation, there is limited impact to our bullish thesis here.
Yeah, there is. And, if we look at, the markets today for miners, many of them have sort of started to recover all the way to where they were on Friday. So it hasn't taken long. We did say on Friday when the share prices were dropping significantly, we saw, I think the Bitfarms price had dropped down to in the 330 range. Maybe that was a buying opportunity. But obviously when you're seeing the Bitcoin price drop as much as it did, nobody knows where the end of that could be. And I think, you've got to have balls of steel to go in there and start buying stocks with so much uncertainty. And it didn't take long for the market to really, turn in terms of the mining stocks. They really hit some lows, but then they sort of bounced back even on Friday to still stay down, but not as big as they were during that hours period that we talked about previously. On today's opening, we've seen the likes of Bitfarms, get all the way back closer to that $5 range. The stock price is up 18% as we speak on the podcast. And having a really good day. And another stock that's having a good day is Cipher. Again, Cipher's share price was really hit on Friday. I managed to get a sell-in on Friday at a price that was about $1 higher than the market open. But as I say, I was really looking at some of those sell trades, and then all of a sudden the market dropped. And obviously, I was just very, very fortunate. I'll leave it at that there. But Cipher today, back in the $19.50 range there, market capitalization. Cipher is now actually a higher market capitalization than Amara. That's a scary thought. And I think it's getting close to catching Riot as well. Riot's market cap today, 8 billion, but Cipher at 7.6 billion. Bitfarms, $4.96 at the time of the podcast. 75 million shares traded in the first 2 hours. Remember the average volume for Bitfarms, and it has increased significantly over these last 3 or 4 weeks where we've seen incessant trading. The average volume picked up to 58 million. Well, it's done 75 million in the first 2 hours. We've still got another 5.5 hours of trading to go. And so some really big volumes. IREN again pulling back. IREN's share price dropped all the way down to $53 on Friday for a very, very short space of time. Again, if people had some limit buys in at that low price there, would have picked up a real bargain in IREN. $65 today trading, up 5%. Hut's having a great day. Bitdeer and Mara and Riot are in the green. A couple of miners in the red. Soluna, it's had a bit of volatility over the last few months there. Still above that $2 range there, but down 7% today, $2.23. Volumes there, 5.5 million, which is about half the average volume there. So no big volumes to distinguish anything untoward going on with the company there. But if you look at where the day ranges are, a lot of those miners at the top there are at the highs of the day. In fact, look at Bitfarms. It actually went over $5 in trading today, $5.07. And I would imagine Ben is a happy person at the moment, considering what he's had to put up with over the last 18 months.
No kidding. Yeah, went from the Riot situation, potentially being delisted, to now having the share price flirting with $5. So congratulations to Ben. I got to wonder what Fred Thiel at Mara is thinking, seeing Tyler Page and Cipher hot on his heels there. So it's an interesting dynamic in the market, and they're really starting this re-rate. We've talked about the fact Bitcoin miners get a 2 or 3 times multiple. HPC data centers get a 20 or 30 times. So you can look at a 10x share price move just on the re-rate alone, which is really what we're seeing with some of these names. Now, we talked about the importance of not using leverage. The second tip we'll give you today is to zoom out. So if we look at your heat map chart, this was an absolute disaster on the daily on Friday. But if you look at the 1 month or even out further than that, all in the green, all's good with the miners, just a temporary setback in our opinion.
Yeah, the 5-day and the daily rate are going to have a few more reds because of what happened on Friday. But look at the 1 month. I mean, was talking, average price up for stocks there, probably around about the 60% across the board. Soluna not having a great day today, but still 141% up on the month. Bitfarms up 100%. That's had some really good movements in the last few days. IREN up 75%. CleanSpark up 92%. CleanSpark started to really impress the market there. Maybe that decision to move into using power towards HPC is, after all, a good idea. I wonder who put that point across to them, but time will tell. Core Scientific, again, having a good day, heading towards $19. And remember, we've covered Core Scientific quite a few times on the podcast, just to highlight that deal with CoreWeave there. Remember the price on the day of the 7th of July, $20.40 is the indicative value for Core Scientific as at the day the offer was made. Well, it's been over $19 today in trading, so only about just over $1 away from the value price. So interesting part for shareholders now. Do they keep hold of their Core Scientific shares and trade them in if the deal goes ahead for CoreWeave shares, or do they sort of make an opportunity to maybe get that closer towards that $20 a share and then use the money to invest in in a company that they feel is going to give them the best return going forward, and maybe some of the miners with HPC could deliver on that.
You're certainly right there. And again, the theme that comes through for me is patience. These miners take time to make these pivots, to make these moves, but it seems like they're on the right track. Now, you mentioned the conviction you would have needed to have on Friday to go in and purchase these stocks. It's scary. Regardless of how much due diligence, how good you understand the company, when stuff like this happens, people panic. There's a few people out there that didn't panic. I just mentioned Fred Thiel. They went out, purchased Bitcoin on the open market, 400 Bitcoin. We know Saylor was buying. And if we bring up the HODL 15 chart here, everyone except our friends at Riot, you can see a green arrow up. So despite the volatility, despite the tweets from Trump, the big players in the market know where this is headed. They know the value of Bitcoin, and they're more than happy to step in and buy these dips.
Yeah, absolutely. And BlackRock bought a significant amount as well, $5 billion worth. That's 47,500 by my calculations, based on the price they said they bought at. And so, they're heading way over 800,000, probably 850,000 Bitcoin now, already commanding more than 4% of all the Bitcoin that's ever been produced. That's a scary thought. And when you've got the likes of Strategy, who's probably getting closer to 3% of every Bitcoin, you've got two entities there controlling, between 7 and 8% of the whole amount of Bitcoin. And we've talked about that before. Is it decentralized when two entities control so much? Time will tell. But now looking at the heat map, yes, Riot, that was the first month in a long, long time, longer than I can remember, that Riot have ever sold more than they actually produced in a month. They have been selling Bitcoin for quite a while, but not all the Bitcoin. They've been adding to their hodl month by month. This was the first time they spent more, and they literally sold 20 more than their production. So it wasn't a massive amount, but they probably realized the strategy that IREN have used to use Bitcoin to grow their services, grow their facilities, grow their GPUs, grow their mining business over the last 4 years, and maybe taking a leaf out of Dan and Will Roberts' book by using the opportunity to sell some Bitcoin when it was really high priced and not go in and constantly use the ATM. So looking at other levers to use there. So, may have sold a bit more production, but hats off to Riot there. They've still got 19,287. They're still sat in seventh on the all-time list there in terms of public companies that hold Bitcoin. If we go down to the 100th company, you've got to have 116 Bitcoin to get on this now. And remember, go back to December last year, and you only had to have 3 Bitcoin to get in the top 70. So this is where we are now. Massive, massive increase. It's like you say, there's probably 20, 25 green arrows on that chart there showing the companies that have increased in Bitcoin there. And this will continue. This will be getting, more and more companies will continue to buy and grow them treasury strategies in Bitcoin. And we'll keep letting you know the positions as soon as HODL 15 gives its updates. Really, really good charts he puts out there. Shout out to him for this one. But yeah, a good few days of people taking advantage of that low Bitcoin price.
They certainly were, yeah. And at a macro level, global M2 continues to explode. Interest rates continue to go down. So I don't think we're out of this rally quite yet. But a nice little way to start off the week here. Hopefully these gains hold out. We know we're podcasting a little bit earlier. You're off on your way to Kazakhstan. We'll do our best to keep you guys updated throughout the week here as well as news comes out. In summary today, you guys, don't use leverage. Make sure you zoom out. Don't get caught up in the daily moves. Have some patience. And as we've been saying in our members only chat, take some profits along the way, giving you the opportunity to have some dry powder or cash in the account. Take advantage of these pullbacks. You should look at days like Friday as an opportunity rather than be scared of them. Again, as long as you're not maybe trading on leverage. So let us know in the comment section below how you made out on Friday and how you're feeling going into this week. If you have any additional questions, feel free to throw them in as well. Hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. We'll see you back here tomorrow.